Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time. So if you are here for the very first time, then make sure to, of course, go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document there. Now, we're going to first talk about this story here. This is the breaking story today, which is a driver with a certain type of flag, the flags from the Germans, charged with targeting president after the truck crashes through the White House security barrier. Now, apparently this flag was discovered inside the vehicle. This smells sort of fishy. A lot of folks that were there was some tweets online, and I have heard that some tweets were deleted from people that were actually near the area. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if I don't think it can be confirmed, because once they're gone, they're gone. But I thought that was very, very, very odd. It says a truck driver was detained by the Secret Service overnight after crashing into security barriers near the White House, and an NAZI flag was discovered inside the vehicle. The incident occurred around Lafayette Square, where the driver of a rented U-Haul box truck crashed into the security barriers and repeatedly tried to ram through. The driver was arrested at the scene and slapped with charges that include trespassing, destruction of federal property, and threatening to kidnap and inflict harm on the vice pres, and a family member. It says that bomb technicians were called to the area to check the truck for explosives. Authorities searched the vehicle and discovered a black backpack, a roll of duct tape, a notebook, and a NAZI flag with a swastika. It says there were no injuries to any Secret Service or White House personnel, and the cause and the manner of the crash remain under investigation. So very, very odd kind of events here that are going on. And of course, we're in that time of the year when a lot of weird things like this happen. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Some very good questions in the chat. Where did the 30 tons of fertilizer go? I think it was, it was 30 tons and 60,000 pounds of fertilizer. Ammonium nitrate used in very big boom booms. And obviously this kind of truck event gladly did not end up going boom boom. But it's very odd. All of the weird little events, and they are smaller events in the grand scheme of things if you look at the world, but these smaller events are really starting to paint a picture that something is right underneath the level. Now, remember, mainstream media is going to remain steady with the narratives and make sure that you are calm and pleasant all the way up until things completely come to a crashing halt. Now, that's, of course, my view. You can, of course, leave your view in the comments down below. But most of the people here understand, or at least think, that we are on the precipice of something very, very bad. That isn't the end of the world. What it is it's the start of the new one. And this new world does not include all of our freedoms and all of our rights. So that is why we talk about it, and we talk about it on a regular basis. I think it should be, talked about, and we should be able to talk about it. But things are changing rapidly, especially for people like myself and my peers that even talk about these issues. So this is pretty scary. But before we get started, remember every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to talk about here on the show is available over on marfooglenews.com. Now, when you go there, you'll see that it is all organized by, of course, thumbnail. Just look for today's thumbnail, events unfolding. And then once you click on it, events unfolding, DHS and AI, it'll bring you to every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. That way you have a source for everything that we are saying, and you know where it came from. Nobody can say that, we're not sourcing our work. Again, you can use this. You can also use it for your own videos if you'd like. So again, we've put everything in one place. Just make sure to, of course, stop by and say hi every once in a while. All right, and then let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, the event today, this is a U-Haul. Wasn't there an event just like this where a guy rammed into something with the vehicle and it turned out kind of the same? Wasn't this like exactly almost like 4 or 5 years ago?
There's been plenty of events where U-Hauls are rented to do things, whether it's to make, I guess, running into stuff or actually using them to make things go boom, boom. But yeah, this is definitely something that I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking because, I would think that the security gates would be strong enough to withhold the impact of a big truck. Maybe not, an armored vehicle moving at a high rate of speed, but definitely anything that consumers would get their hands on, like a rental truck. I would think it would not go through there. So this story just seems odd, just at the level of mentality it would take to think that this would work. It leaves me bewildered, but I don't know what more we'll hear from this. There just seems to be a lot of fishiness around the whole story as a whole.
Yeah, and I guess for somebody who doesn't know any of this and maybe they accidentally found this and they normally watch, normal mainstream news, they wouldn't understand why we ask questions about these kind of things. First of all, if you know the history and of, the 3-letter agencies and some of the things they have done through the past, in fact, I think if everybody just educates themselves on our history, then they will obviously look at some events and go, wait, could that be this? Could that be that? Because the 3-letter agencies like CIA have done events like this in the past. They've done events like this in other countries, and under the guise that and some of them may have been under good intentions, like to take over a dictator's country or something, right? But most times it's done and it's for power or control or something close, or money or oil or something close to that. So again, always ask questions. Should never make up your mind at this point because everything is rapidly changing. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the black half football field size triangle UFO over California?
So this is amazing imagery, and many people, I guess, saw this, but this has been released, I guess, this particular, we've seen people describe stuff like this before, I guess is what I should say. But this came from, I guess, one of the military members had a picture of this from Camp Wilson in 29 Palms. And this comes back from 2021. So it's one of the first times we're seeing it. But this, if you take a look at the image, it's been described. I've seen this description numerous times. So I wonder how often people are seeing something like this. It's that triangle shape. It's got multiple lights on it. It almost looks like a stealth-sized vehicle, but they're actually describing this thing as being half a football field in size, which is bigger than anything we've ever, made, I guess, as far as our own known public flying apparatuses, if you want to call them that. But this is definitely a interesting sight. And if you've seen something like this, let us know. Like, leave it in the comments down below, or shoot us an email. Especially if you have pictures or images of anything like this, definitely upload it and share it to marfooglenews.com/play my video.
Now, it says in the bottom that this is a photo from Jeremy Corbell. All I know of Jeremy Corbell, because I haven't watched his documentaries, is that, like people like Tyler from Secure Team 10, I've heard what he has said to it. I don't judge anybody based on somebody else's statements of him. But of course, Tyler says that Jeremy Corbell is kind of the person that got thrown to the top. They picked somebody, that mainstream media picked somebody and essentially made them the representative of this big distraction, and that it pulls away from actual ufology and following the real UFOs. I'm sure there's, Jeremy Corbell, a lot of folks most likely follow that whole thing. I don't follow it enough closely enough. I also don't judge the guy. I don't think anybody can judge somebody on what somebody else says about them. But he has been in, cahoots with a lot of high-ranking officials. He's been, of course, had access to a lot of this crazy stuff. It wasn't Jeremy Corbell. He is the same one who came out with this, the Tic Tac flying videos, right? Or at least did the documentary about that and pulled those out. I'm pretty sure he is. The Tic Tac videos that went, viral. And everywhere, every mainstream channel showed them. Let's hear Bones. Hey, Bones is in the chat. We've got one of our toughest mods here. What's going on? Twisted Luck Truth. Hey, nice to see you. Great photos on your Twitter. Darren Schrader, what is happening? J-Girl, that's me. My hands are hurting from neuropathy. I'm sorry. I'll be praying for you. Rick Davis, I've seen one of these last time, December 2019. Huh. Let me just check something. Okay, cool. Just thinking that. Yeah, I think that. It's not in the way. Last night there was a rumble, and there was no earthquake. Everything shifted, including my camera. So this black right here is the monitor, which was really bad before. If you go back to the intro, it was like a corner, and it's on a tripod, so the whole tripod wiggled, but there was no seismic activity. Really weird. There was no cars. Checked my cameras. There was no vehicles, big trucks, garbage trucks, or anything. It just rumbled. It was very, very odd. I don't know enough to say anything yet, because I haven't seen any other reports of like the weird trumpet noises or weird underground explosions. But I just thought that was interesting. And I have sandbags on the bottom too, so that doesn't make too much sense. I guess it could wiggle within it, but let's see here. And then huge swaths of Mexico are blanketed in dust as Popocatépetl. I keep saying this wrong. I think it's Popocatépetl volcano continues to spew ash. It says that around 3 million people have been ordered to evacuate as huge swaths of Mexico have been blanketed in dust by the volcano, which has delayed flights and caused schools to close. The country's National Civil Protection Coordination increased its threat level to yellow phase 3, which ordered the evacuations and warned people nearby to prepare for the possibility of getting away themselves. The next step, a red alert, triggers mandatory evacuations, and dozens of shelters have already opened in areas surrounding the crater as a precaution. Approximately 25 million people. 25 million. That's almost 2.5 times as much as a big city like Seattle. No, that is way more. Yeah, that's way more. No, that's 2.5 times the population. Wow, this is what a incredible population center. There's like 1 million in Washington. There's 9 million in New York City. So that's like 2.5 times the population of New York City. Gosh, they are so packed in. Live within 60 miles of the Popo. Just 45 miles southeast of Mexico City. That is so many people that close. This could turn into one heck of a disaster. We talked about how we read some articles and some op-eds that talked about how this is now with technology and how closely they're monitoring this specific volcano, that they will have some sort of leeway, or they hope to, because of all of the stuff that's monitoring. There's certain signs that they know that this thing will be, going soon. And so right now they're at a yellow. Dex, am I tripping? I mean, isn't that a lot of population within 60 miles of this thing? 25 million. Or am I wrong?
No, there's a lot of population there. And the fact that 3 million, this number is growing, that we're up to 3 million. I think a few days ago it was barely at 1 million that were being prepared. So now they're ordering and are prepared to evacuate 3 million. And this could go even bigger. Like you said, 25 million are within 60 miles of El Papo.
El Papo. You just said it with so much class and grace.
I was not going to pronounce the full name. I'm going with El Papo.
Well, on a real note and on a serious note, I'm praying for the people nearby. I would think that would be one of the worst ways to go, is to either, well, I guess if you inhaled stuff and you just went to sleep, kind of like they say if you die in a fire and you die by inhalation, that's kind of a peaceful death. But to die by, like, say, lava coming down on you or burning you, that's not a very pleasant way to go. But praying for the people in Popocatépetl. And so we talked about this on the Marfoogle News Short, and I hope you guys shared that out. I made it really short, like really short. And that was so we could get you to share that with people that aren't going to watch a 2-hour show, that aren't even going to watch a 10-minute video. It's very important because it covers this and another piece from the DHS. This is super alarming. It says car seats and baby formula are regulated. Is social media next? Now, this is a question and article put out by AP. And essentially what this says is that the Surgeon General is warning that social media is dangerous, right? Why now? We've had 20 plus years of Facebook, or however many years of Facebook, over a decade. We've had all of these social medias, and we know that they're affecting our kids. We know it's affecting our entire civilization. It's affecting every country in the world that these things are in, and it is changing human civilization. It has changed them. I mean, think about this. You go down the road, it used to be like 1 out of every 100 people would be on their phones. Now, you can't drive without seeing somebody on their phone. People literally have them right in front of them watching movies or on FaceTime. I cannot tell you how many cab drivers or Lyft drivers or drivers I see talking to their family members in another country while they're driving, somebody in their back seat with the official Lyft logo in their dang thing. I've been in a Lyft where the guy's talking to his family, and I'm like, hey, can you just turn that off, or maybe do audio and, maybe look at the road? I think it's incredible how cell phones have now enslaved the human population. It's incredible. And I'm sure the governments of the world and the people that are extremely powerful believe that this is one of the best tools. So why would they be stepping against it and saying it's dangerous? Well, I'll tell you what, it's only if they want to bring in something scarier or something that will be utilized by them. And essentially what they mention is, we need to take immediate action to protect children now. They're making the Frankenstein, and then they're recruiting the people with pitchforks so they can take it out. Only the people with pitchforks are going to take out freedoms and rights. So... now, Dex, I think I gotta, so we have this, and the actual document is linked on our website. This just kind of put it over in our system so it could look the same. But we actually here's the original here. This is the DHS.gov immediate release. And this is what I talked about on that video, and this is extremely important. So please listen. This is the Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, and, of course, the Forensic Laboratory at Homeland Security and the National Institute of Standards and Technology, asking to build something that could be able to identify every human that either logs into banks. They say, here's the great part, close on, let's see here. To apply for government services, open bank accounts, or to verify social media accounts. That covers basically 3 of the major things, and that social media being thrown in there is a huge deal. Dex, do you want to talk about this and what this, we have talked about this so many times, how they're going to say all of this AI and everything else is so good that we don't know what's real, we don't know who's a real person, and then they bring in the solution. It looks like they're creating it right here. Are they not?
Yeah, they are. And we've said this numerous times, especially around everything with AI, especially around with the deepfakes, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's both, or the images we've seen. We've shown numerous images just this week that were caused stock markets to go down. Of course, they recovered, but still, those are major events that are happening, and they're basically, we've been saying what they're going to do to solve this problem is create an identity system so that they can identify everyone. They can identify everything and everyone. That way there is no question where something came from, and if it has any authenticity to it. And if it doesn't, or if someone, basically, screamed fire in a crowded theater, they can now find who is responsible for it. That is the solution. And what they're doing is presenting us with all these problems, whether it's, hey, your kids aren't protected online, to, these images are causing the stock market to fail, to insert any other AI system now that is creating these problems. So this is huge in the fact that they're actually coming out and saying, hey, we're looking at this tech. We're looking for people to come in and build it. And it's 3 phases. 1 is identifying documents, 2 is identifying and matching selfies, and then 3 is making sure they know how that the selfie that was taken is from a live image or from a live person, and not just, a camera being held up to a photograph of another person, or an image being interjected into the system to look like it's a photograph or a real photograph. So this is kind of crazy, and everyone should be weary of this and try to understand what's actually happening. And we should be question, should DHS, should the Homeland Security, should the TSA, which are the 3 main organizations that are involved in this, should they be involved in this? Should they be creating this type of identity system for social media accounts? That's kind of crazy.
I mean, it's so obvious. It's a bad B movie where the person is going to run up the stairs instead of out the front door. It's the most predictable movie you have ever seen. And again, this is something we have said with all of the articles. You can see the path and the picture it's painting. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a somebody who's psychic to see this coming. This is straight up the next part of this path, and it's something that obviously it's just funny because we have especially talked about it this week, and I'm sure others have too, but we have been talking about this for years. Why? Because the patterns are there. The reason why we tell you this is so you realize there are patterns to this. There are patterns to what is going to happen next. And if you start seeing how many things are being called correctly, not only by us, but our Mafia family here, then you start seeing why there's the necessity to start prepping and to start preparing. It's not the end of the world. What it is it's changing, and it's changing very fast. And if you are prepared correctly, you will be able to be comfortable for, through these hard times. As far as this goes, no matter what happens, this is something that, what is the solution? How do we push back against this? Well, I think education and information is the biggest weapon against any of this. The more people that know, the more people that shout out. I mean, there is a lot of power in people knowing that, what is actually going on, seeing through the filters they put over the veil. So make sure to spread the knowledge of this stuff far and wide. That is extremely important. ZenWinAZ, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by yesterday as well. Jeff Crawford says, thanks for all the hard work you and Dex put in the show. It's greatly appreciated. P.S. Every show you named, I grew up watching too, plus Andy Griffith. Yes, Andy Griffith was good too, and I didn't like it when I was a kid. That's actually one I liked later on because I didn't that one and Get Smart I didn't like until I was older. And then Rhoda I didn't get until I was older, and I watched that when I was in my late teens. But yeah, they were all of the other ones I really loved. But yeah, Kay Parker Frazier, best news out there. Well, thank you, Kay, and I appreciate you. And then let's see here, Sasha Lamora, thank you as well yesterday. Jerry Schertz, Overcame Bipolar with Jesus, and Be Real Beast, and Matthew Michael. Mitchell Wintro, thank you, and thank you for your support yesterday. Dex, go ahead.
I just had a quick comment. There are really valid use cases for an opt-in identification. When I say opt-in, that means you choose to do it, right? You're not forced to do it. The government isn't coming in with a system and a profile to do it. But it would be really nice if you could get a message from, say, your bank, and the bank opted into some sort of system that allowed you to verify the identity that it's coming from the bank, so you weren't getting frauded. It's no different than, say, the blue check mark on Twitter, where you opt in to be verified, and that at least proves that you're human at the very minimal. I think is about what you can expect out of a blue check mark these days, nothing more. But those are things that make sense. But the key point is they're opt-in. The end user or the end company or whoever's behind it is choosing to do that and choosing to use it, as opposed to a system being put in place run by the government, which is kind of crazy.
And if they're making this system, then they're obviously, most of the stuff that these technology companies use is stuff that the government probably already had. This is coming, and I guarantee you this is the start of it. It's very easy to see the patterns. Just watch. All right, before we move on, if you do want to support us, again, we're on our own out here. So if you can, and if you are in need of a good generator, then I'd highly recommend this one. This is Energy. It's one of the best out of, I believe there's only one that's really close to it, and this even has advantages over it. This is, again, the Energy solar generator. The Flex 1500 is their flagship system. This can be expanded, and it can actually be expanded up to 96 batteries. So this can be a generator that you actually, take with you, grab with 2, 3, 4 batteries on it, and it actually clicks together like Lego. You can put it in your truck, go out, use it at work, use it at the cabin, use it in the woods, whatever you want to do, use it in the bug out spot. Or you can actually set this up as a home unit. Now they have the Flex UPS rapid charger, which sandwiches in just like a Lego. And of course, it turns it into an uninterrupted power supply. Essentially, an uninterrupted power supply just needs to be under a certain amount of milliseconds that it switches over to this. So say if you have your fridge plugged into this and this plugged into the wall, your power goes out for whatever reason, this will switch the power over to the generator when you need it. The great part about the solar is it stores the onto the batteries. It's basically a giant battery bank, and that power is there ready to go. It's a very, very cool system. It's silent, and of course that means that people won't hear you from 3 blocks away running a generator. Now, there's all sorts of different pros and cons to both gas and solar. In a dream world, you would have both. But the real downside of gas is that, 1, you have to store gas, and 2, you're going to have to find it if you run out. If SHTF happens, that's a horrible, horrible thing that is going to go right away. Is gas stations, we've seen it through regular disasters. It's going to be extremely hard. As far as stealth-wise, too, being quiet, that's going to be a huge deal. Being a gray man is going to be extremely important in an SHTF. But before SHTF or even a local regional disaster that this could be good for, these are, again, good for just in general. If you have a storm, anything else, they come in super handy. I'm sure all of you that get one will end up using it a ton of times. I know that just during local storms, we've lost power several times, and we've used it many times. So again, there's also the X2. That's an all built-in one. You can't expand it, but you can dual link 2 units together. The battery is not removable, but it is actually more people like this as far as a single portable unit that you can take with you, and everything's all built in, including even a flashlight. It has an incredibly bright light that can light a field. So make sure to go check that out as well. That is down there, the X2. It depends on what you're doing it for. This is really good for RV or van people. Why we recommend this? 1, you get a discount through us. 2, it's the best, and we would only make sure that we have the best as our affiliate. And then, of course, 3, it will help us out as well. We will get a commission on that, and then it will help us grow and reinforce the growth of our channel and this group. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you. Again, thank you. MarfoogleNews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And then Bill Gates says AI could become so powerful that people would never need to use a search engine again. Well, at least not Bing. I think he's biased, right? Because he's like, yeah, you'll never have to use the Google. I bet he just sits around with like a Google dartboard. Oh, let's play some bridge. Dex, what the heck is up with this?
So for once, Gilly Bates here is actually talking about technology as opposed to other things that he likes to pontificate upon. But this is interesting. He was at a AI Forward. It's an event. It was in San Francisco, and it was hosted by Goldman Sachs and other people in the industry. But the big quote that came out of there, and this is his specific quote, was, "Whoever wins the personal agent, that's the big thing. Because you will never go to a search site again. You will never go to a productivity site. You will never go to Amazon again." And basically, he's describing this environment with AI where you have a personal assistant that does things for you, such as read the stuff you don't have time to read, or go shopping for you. You could tell it, "Hey, I need a new toaster oven. Can you find the best one for less than $100 and, have it shipped to my house?" And AI would say, "No problem. I'll take care of it." Things like that is what he's describing, like how an individual could benefit from having a personal assistant, which none of us have. We can't afford our own personal assistants because we don't have the money that these elites have. But how you can get some to that point, whoever develops AI that actually can fulfill that role, in his opinion, would win the game. And that's how he describes it, is you'll never have to search. You'll never have to go shopping. You'll never have to do all the things that you waste your time doing, as he describes it. You would let AI do it for you.
He just creeps me out. He's playing the smallest little creepy violin ever. I knew right after you said pontificate that somebody would point that out. Like Dex he's always using words that I'm like, I have to grab a dictionary, and I'm like, oh, what is pontificate? Okay. You get it in the general context. Dex is incredibly smart, so I have to run behind him, try to keep up. And then I found Waldo says a pontification dartboard. Truth Iris says, thanks. Mingle, what's the use of even living if you can't do anything yourself? That's the fun part of life. You should ask me how I know, Andy Mack. Great word. It is. And a long time ago, Dex inspired me to use the word of the day thing. You can actually go to the dictionary website, or if you type in word of the day into a search engine, it gives you a new word every day. Like I told you, my aunt said, she's in her 70s, and she said something that really stuck out to me. She, instead of being like old wise and saying that she knows everything, she said the older you get, the more you realize that the more info you don't know. The older you get, the more you realize you know nothing. That you essentially become this little tiny speck of dust. Even your great knowledge over 70, 80, 90 years is so little compared to what is out there. And it is kind of crazy that we have these brains that only use a small, tiny percent of what they're capable to do, which makes you wonder, like, where are we going to evolve into? Are we going to evolve into creatures that can use all 100% of our brain? They're on a path to doing that. And I believe these very, very powerful people, I think that they would use that stuff on themselves, and they would, of course, pick and choose who would be able to do it. They believe that most of us down here are scum on the bottom of their shoes. So the more, like I said, information is the biggest and strongest weapon. So people should understand that info is one of the most powerful weapons in this conflict. So make sure you, of course, spend every minute you can learning. And Kansas farmers abandon wheat fields after extreme drought. This is really, really sad. And there are a couple things that I covered that really, really hit home. I have family members with farms. And while we were covering a couple years ago that the corn wasn't going above knee height, we had somebody that we knew personally that lost their farm to that, and it destroyed an entire kind of line of family friends' farm. So it was really, really sad, and it was during those years we talked about this, we covered it, and I didn't realize that it personally affected people we knew. As far as their 108-year farm was gone after one of those years. So this is really, really scary. And, for many of us that aren't farmers, it's hard to relate to this, but it will be easy to relate when the food starts running out. Dex, this is like, as far as the Kansas situation, this is not putting us in a good position.
We're the number 5 producer of wheat, so we're pretty significant. I mean, we're not the biggest, but it's significant, and it's our food we're talking about here. To see so many of these farmers having to abandon their autumn or fall crops that they planted is significant. And I think that it says nationally, winter wheat farmers plan to abandon 33% of the acres they planted. It's the highest percentage since World War I, according to the Department of Agriculture. So think about that. That's huge. We are not in a position to have as much wheat as we traditionally have had. And what is that going to mean? It means we're going to have to import more. It's going to mean prices are going to go up. Everything that uses wheat, and by the way, just about everything uses wheat in some form. You go look on the shelf. It's, especially if you have a gluten and sensitivity, then it's hard to find stuff without wheat in it. Everything's going to go up. The prices are going to be affected by this. This is something we have to pay attention to. And it's not just, is this just a wheat issue? What happened here? Is it happening to other crops? And should we be paying attention to that? And are we going to see more effects from this? And keep in mind, when we report stuff like this, you don't really feel it for about 6 months. You don't feel this for a while. It takes time. When we talked about all the chickens, and that, it took a long time for egg prices to go through the roof. It took a long time for those effects to hit the market. You'll feel it though. So be prepared.
Now, I want to pull this up. We're actually about close to tied with Russia. Russia is the number one by like 0.01 as far as 13.1 of total wheat exports. The United States at 13.1% as well, but like slightly under. And then Australia, I don't know if they're going to have the crazy fires they had a couple years ago, but we're heading into an El Nino, which they could have some loss themselves. Then after that, Canada, UKR. Funny, UKR is in the top 5, which going forward, a lot of people have questioned that if part of the UKR thing is the power of food. China is hoarding wheat. In fact, Dex, what was the number? Wasn't it the highest number out of all of the things they were hoarding? They hoarded 55% of the world's wheat when they only have 20% of the world's population. They have a huge population, but they're actually hoarding 55% of the world's wheat. Do they know something we don't?
Exactly.
Is there something happening?
And keep in mind, Adam, you just said you're talking about exports. So those are the top exporters. The largest producer of wheat is China. India being second, Russia being third, the U.S. Being fourth, according to these stats. And in the article, it said we were the fifth. So it probably bounces back and forth. But yes, go back to that notion. China is the number 1 producer of wheat. 134 million tons is produced there.
Wow. I did not know that. And they're keeping it all to themselves. They are not even in the top 15 of exporters, so they're not giving it away. This is something people need to pay attention to. And let's see here. We have Taiwan's W and the H and the O exclusion risks terrible impact. It says Taiwan's health chief on Sunday warned that the continued exclusion of the self-ruling island from the W and the H and the O amid pressure from China posed a significant threat to global health. Excluding Taiwan from the not only jeopardizes the right to health of the 23.5 million people of Taiwan, but also seriously undermines the W and the H and the O's efforts to achieve health for all. I just want to point out, they have less people in the entire country of Taiwan than they do within 60 miles of Popocatépetl. I just noticed that, because they said 25 million. That's actually... So, yeah, just kind of backs up my thing. Like, that's a lot of people that are close to that volcano. It says he spoke shortly before the United Nations Health Agency annually assembly kicked off in western Swiss city of Geneva on Sunday. Taiwan has been blocked from attending the World Assembly, the WHA, the WA, in recent years by China, which considers the island a renegade province to be reunified by the mainland by force if necessary. There have been growing calls to allow Taiwan in as an observer, especially after the CV highlighted the importance of global cooperation on reining in infectious diseases. I wonder if they're also setting this up for something else as well. I would not put it past, on a side note, as far as another CV, that other tabletop exercise definitely scared the crap out of a lot of us. And it made us realize how quickly people could fall in line for something like this. And if it's even a worse one, or if that one was slightly a practice for something bigger, a real deal Holyfield, like bring everything back down to 500,000 type of thing, or 500 million, that's a freaky thought to even have. It says, I'm afraid that Taiwan will become the gap of the next demic, he said, speaking through a translator, warning that this would have a terrible impact for the entire world. Now think about what is being set up here if they really do not join. They're saying that this could be a gap. In the future, there's a pattern of these kind of things happening where an article like this puts this in the back of your mind, and then later when an actual demic comes along, then somehow Taiwan ends up responsible for it going nuts and spreading all over the place, right? It didn't happen last time, or I don't think it did, with the Civ, whatever that was, and I just wonder if this is something that could be, right? As we continue to confront emerging health threats around the world, Taiwan's isolation from the WHA 76 undermines the inclusive global public health cooperation led by the Chinese partner, the W and the H and the O. The U.S. mission in Geneva tweeted last Saturday. Beijing has staunchly opposed efforts to include Taiwan as a WHA observer. Any attempt to play the Taiwan card to contain China will lead nowhere, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said recently. Taiwan was expelled from the W and the H and the O in 1972, a year after losing the China seat at the United Nations to the People's Republic of China. It was allowed to attend the top annual meetings between 2009 and 2016 as an observer when relations with China were warmer. So they have stepped up their campaign to make sure that that does not happen. Seems like things are picking up on that note. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the basically they were kicked out?
Yep.
Talked about it.
So we just went over like their plea. They've been pleading to be included. By the way, I didn't know this. I mean, now that I look back at it, I'm like, well, it makes sense because of the strong influence of Xi and China with that organization. But this was a pretty powerful plea to try to once again get them in. And they're not being included. And now, officially, it came out just now that even after that plea, they came out and said, nope, you're not allowed in. And they have actually decided not to extend Taiwan an invitation and they are being rejected from the organization again.
Who is really running things around here? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, the whole world considers them to be super nasty. They're tracking their people. They've done the social credit score. Nobody approves of it, but yet people are getting slid payments to basically make this work. That's what my opinion is, anyways. That's only my opinion, but think about it. They even didn't allow. During the CV, they had pull over this agency or this big group they said basically only they could come in and look. But other people were saying, hey, you guys you've got connections there. We want a third party to go in there. I think it was Australia. Was it not? You know what? Australia, they put a tariff on Australia. I think they put it on exports going to Australia because Australia asked for some third party to go in and find out the origins or something. Dex, is that incorrect? I might be incorrect on that.
I'm not 100% certain on that one.
I feel like hold on, let me look this up because I do want to find. And I think it was like they ended up doing it to Australia and saying it wasn't because of that, but everybody was like, it happened right afterwards. Australia third party instead of who into. Yeah. Terry says new see it roll in the quad. Yeah, I think I'm not searching the right thing here. If you guys have something, if you can, if you find it in the chat, this is why the chat's important. If you guys find out what I'm talking about and confirm it, so just consider it not confirmed. But I feel like Australia was one of the only people or one of the only countries that says, hey, this whole thing's going on. This was during the whole CV thing. Said this agency you guys are directly tied into and have pull over. We want somebody else to go in there. Then China reacted, got pissed off at them, and started doing tariffs on exports or something. Something happened. I feel like in my brain it was 20% tariffs or something like that. But again, that's just from memory, and I'm probably wrong in some way. Let's see here. I can't call American peeps with my plan, but wondering if calling in is toll-free. Yes, ours is, well, I don't know. It depends on where you're calling from. But again, that's on Thursday and Friday that we have. Grimm's Beef says, you're right, Marv. But that's Grimm's Beef saying it, so. 10%. Cheyenne says 10%. Okay. Well, I'm getting closer there. They put on large tariffs on our beef, wine, coal, etc. Hey, Dave, are you from Australia? Okay, so I feel like that was true. But again, we can't say anything that's incorrect. Otherwise, we'll have to do another show correcting it. So just consider it kind of a part truth. And then China hits out at Japan over G7 summit, accuses U.S.-led bloc of camp confrontation and Cold War mentality. Dex, do you want to go over this? This is more China versus Japan rhetoric.
Well, you said it numerous times. Watch Japan, and apparently Xi is too. They are not happy over the G7, the meeting. So that meeting just concluded, and it was in Japan over the weekend, and they were absolutely not happy that it was happening. Just like they were not happy when NATO officials were going there. So they're putting out that they have strong, dissatisfaction and resolute opposition to the G7's, meeting, but more so around the China-related issues that the meeting was about. And obviously, they were meeting specifically in Japan to talk about the alliance against China. So not only are they upset about the meeting, but they're upset about the content of the meeting. So this is as close to geopolitical, you know, fighting as you can get without actually taking it to the next level, on both sides, both the allies of America aligning in the Pacific against the adversary of China, and China, against them. So no surprise of the sentiment, but definitely you would expect, in some ways you expect this type of rhetoric, but it's also important to understand that the rhetoric is meaningful because it's coming from these countries to one another, and it just continues to not build and broker peace and the semblance of bringing trade and things back together and getting out of this potential cold conflict that we've built up, and it just fosters bringing on that conflict even more. So expect to continue to see more from Japan, continue to see more from Xi around this.
Now, as far as the Japan, there's also this, active idea that China is not only targeting Taiwan, that they would be targeting Japan, they would be targeting Guam, they would be targeting Hawaii even. So this is part of their war games and the things that they have worked out internally. And a lot of this is starting to leak out as truth. But again, it's still up to rumor, but we can guarantee that they have at least war gamed this stuff. So with Japan, a lot is changing, and you can see from the patterns of what Japan is doing, they're changing their overall constitution so they can fight a war in the near future. You can see what this is all setting up. As far as China and Japan, I mean, like, this is it seems like they. And by the way, the new stuff that China is doing right now, as we speak, all of the things that we talked about 5 years ago are now coming true. This Belt and Road Initiative that China did, we are literally seeing countries with 120% inflation right now. We're seeing the end of countries' governments right now. 50% inflation. All of these countries that took these high interest loans and now have defaulted, China now is owning huge swaths of countries right now. This is not good, because they do have a plan for world domination, and they're actively doing it. At the same time, they have also greased people's wallets, so now you have people in almost every government that are most likely allied with China, which they don't care about if China wants to take us and put us on the social credit score and all of that and eventually rule us, because they'll have a seat at the table, or at least that's what they're being told, and they'll have the same freedoms they have now. They don't care if you lose your freedoms as long as they keep theirs. I mean, this sounds like all wild speculation stuff, but I mean, you can see it. You can see it. It's insanely open and out there. By the way, thank you, Lisa Douglas. Thank you for the $100 super chat, $99.99. Thank you so much, and thank you for your massive support. I believe you'll most likely be the top supporter tonight, so thank you, and thank you. Lisa, thank you for supporting Independent. Carol, thank you for the super sticker. And Neil Nelson, thank you as well for the super sticker. I appreciate that. And Catherine Wilson says, God bless you guys. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, Catherine, and God bless you as well. Sasha Lamora too. Again, I love that quote, never surrender, never lose faith. And then before we talk about China's economy has turned rotten and its reopening boom is a charade, market expert says. And again, this is all speculation. Make sure, go check out EMP Shield. This is one way to protect yourself in the case that we do have one of the two most probable events happen. One being a CME, which will happen at some point, a Carrington-level event from the sun, or if we have any one of the many adversaries attack us with an EMP, which has now quickly become one of the most accessible ways to take down the United States. This is a device that can actually protect you against that. Now, this is the actual EMP Shield Micro. This is new. This can actually go in much smaller vehicles, and it's really good for ATVs and smaller things and smaller devices in general, but it has the same protection as the regular EMP Shield. The EMP shields will ground the signal from an EMP all 3 phases before it can fry your device in less than 500 trillionths of a second. It can also protect you against a Carrington level event from the sun, and it can protect everything from your home to your boat, of course, your motorcycles, generators, vehicles, any kind of RV or van, and your solar systems, and of course, even your Flex 1500 can be protected by EMP Shield. They've actually done a direct partnership, and you can get protections for that. So make sure to go check it out. You can get a huge discount of $50 off per device. So if you're outfitting multiple cars, this will protect it. I will tell you something. It's crazy on the newer cars, and we experienced this. I was blown away by this because I've always had older cars. The newer cars. So say if the alternator is going bad, we had to do a lot of, I guess, trial and error to figure out what's going on. My stepdad was helping us fix our 2008 vehicle, and it's an SUV, and I could not believe that the alternator is it basically powers everything. I did not know that even if an alternator goes bad, that a car will die mid-driving. I always had stick shifts where even if your alternator went bad or if your stuff went, you could do a push start where you could push start it and put it in gear. And I understand that automatics couldn't do that, but what I could not believe is that you can't even press the gas now. Newer vehicles, they no longer have an actual pulley cable, and I'm sure most of you are like, oh, of course, we've known that for years. I knew that, but I could not believe you can't even press the gas when it doesn't have that thing working. So you can't press the gas on a vehicle because now it's all computerized. And I think this is so stupid that they did that. I think all cars, no matter how computerized they get, it should be where you press the gas and it's physically pulling a cable to press the gas. But again, that's not how new cars work. And this is why this is more important on a lot of these cars that are in that zone. But then there's actually a set of cars that you don't need this for. So make sure your car needs one before you get one, because then, keeps you out of trouble. But yeah, unless you have a really, really old car or you have a really, really new, this is a really good thing to have on most vehicles, and it will protect you against that surge. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. I'm just blown away by how much does not work, and that would be the same effect once an EMP hits. And then China's economy has turned rotten, and its reopening boom a charade. Dex, why is it a charade? Can you explain that?
Well, this is coming from one market expert, and I know we talk quite a bit about the plans that they have for global dominance and how they've increased their trade and increased all these other things. But we've also heard the stories, and this is one of many from alleged experts that say, look, when we look at the way the economy is coming back or rebounding from the CV, it doesn't necessarily look good for them, and they actually are in trouble. And they've been floating themselves just as bad as we've been floating ourselves, so to speak, right? So this person goes through, and it's he is the Rockefeller International Chair, Ruchin Sharma, and he was writing in Financial Times. But he goes through some specific examples, and he says, for example, Wall Street's assumption of a 5% GDP growth would suggest that their corporate revenue growth of 8%, but they actually only had a 1.5% rise. So they're way off in that. So even this GDP number doesn't make a lot of sense that they're predicting. And he even said that corporate revenue is slower than GDP in 20 of the country's 28 sectors. So they're actually, some of the indicators that a lot of people are sort of overlooking are actually showing that they're not doing as well, and that even their MSCI China stock index down 15% from January's peak. So it's on its way down. Another indicator is the consumer demand. Now, we reported this when it happened. It actually dropped 8% in April. In other words, they importing or consumer demand was down. And that was a significant. And then the other stat that had recently come out was youth unemployment hitting 20% and rising. So their youth unemployment is going up. So a lot of these things, when you put it together, in his opinion, is saying, look, their economy is not looking so good, and it's potentially on the brink of its own problems, just like we've said, and they're sort of hiding and masking. And remember, there was a time not too long ago we reported that they started to pull back some of their key indicators and not show some of those things to the West. They wanted to keep it private. They didn't want to show everything probably because they're trying to make sure that they look as good as they possibly can on paper, so to speak. So this may or may not. It's just one person's opinion, but obviously a person who has a lot of experience in understanding the economics of countries and how they grow and don't grow. So take it with a grain of salt, but it is that other opinion that we've often talked about on the show, where people are saying, yeah, as much as we think they're doing all these great things, there's actually this other scenario that may be happening that we may not actually have the full picture on.
Well, we don't have much of a picture at all because we don't. It's China. They don't tell us the truth. I keep seeing a very similar thing, and it's been over the last few weeks that people are having problems with YouTube chat, having to close it, having to reopen it. I've seen buffering a bunch of times, and I know it's not an issue on our end, but it might be an issue on the end of the chat and the other thing. So Ilea says, my YouTube chat on my phone keeps freezing. I updated the app, still having problems moderating. I'm sorry. That's okay, Ilea. I get it. And I'm seeing other people too where they have to close. And I saw this on DLive a lot, especially when DLive was going through its updates and stuff. But I've never seen it on YouTube this much. So that's odd. So thank you guys for letting me know. And I do hear you. There's not much I can do about it, though. Celtic Warrior, thank you so much as well. Thank you for the $50 super chat. Much love to the Foogle fam, mods, and Marf and Dex. Keep moving supplies to the bug out location. Got a feeling something's going to pop off real soon. Keep your heads on a swivel. Celtic, as long as you're... I actually know quite a few folks that what they do, though, is they make sure that they're moving stuff to their bug out stuff that can stay there and that they don't need it home. I think Alaska has a really good way of doing it. Like, make sure that you are taking care of yourself and everything else first, and then whatever is left after that, try to work on the prep, and then also work on supporting other channels and things. Make sure you have your own self taken care of before you take care of anybody else. Thank you, Celtic. I appreciate that. Liz Potter, saved, sealed, sanctified, blood brought, and Holy Spirit taught. Jesus is my provider. Liz Potter, thank you as well. Thank you for the massive support. Thank you, guys. And then Danish Girl. Hello, Adam, Dex, J, and Sweet Mods. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, and thank you. Obviously, we have just had such a rough time on this side of the platform. It's insane. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Tennessee Mountain Girl, thank you, and thank you. And Stephen McMahon. Stay salty, kids. Off to work. Well, hey, have a good day at work. Stephen, and thank you for stopping by. Thank you for coming by all the time. Thank you. Russia is fortifying its 600-mile front line with anti-tank ditches, mazes of trenches, dragon's teeth barricades, and minefields, reports say. Okay, you have to realize World War I, there is a movie called The Trench, which is funny. I just watched this, and they talk about the World War I front lines, and it was literally 600 miles of trenches. And to put that in perspective, if you've ever gone on a 600-mile trip, Dex, have you ever gone on something close to 600 miles? I mean,
yes.
How long of a trip is that? That's like 18-hour drive or something? Something like that. 12 hours? And that's
if you're
driving.
doing 60, it's 10 hours. So, but usually it's a little less than that because we drive a little faster. Okay,
well, so just say the simple math. 600 miles, if you're going 60 miles an hour down the freeway driving, it would still take you 10 hours. Now think about trenches that guys are walking through. That's like Great Wall of China big. I mean, how long is the Great Wall of China? Isn't that like 700 miles or something? But that is so unbelievably big. And to think that I just thought about it when I was reading the stats on this, what they were trying to portray in this movie is 600 miles of trenches, all dug about 8 foot wide, it throughout these trenches. Some they dig like a extra area for the, the leading officers, the ranking officers, to have a little kind of sleep den. But to think about this kind of thing being made now, this only cements in my brain what is happening right now. This is preparing for a world war. Right now, Russia is making a 600-mile dragon's teeth trench and line of course, barricades and minefields. This is preparing for World War III. If you don't see that, wake up. It's here. And it's coming very fast. And I don't say this to scare people. I'm saying this to wake people up. Like, it's here. Whatever you need to do to try to get a plan together, you may not be affected by this, though. Everybody considers like, oh, it'll be somewhere over there. I almost want to make a video and a series, like actually research it and, talk about, when you're drafted. If you are somebody in a certain age group, like, you will be drafted in the future. And skills to learn if you get drafted, like things you can learn as far as fighting and dealing with this. I bet you if we do get drafted in this day and age, people are going to need info on basic stuff. Like, I could see a situation where they draft people and they don't have time to train them, just like in UKR and in Russia, where they literally grab people off the street, put them on the front line, and within 4 hours they were gone. People should learn this stuff before all of this goes down. 600 miles, Dex. That's incredible. What do you think that's for?
Well, that's the front line, and that front line across that border is pretty significant. And I guess they're worrying about the offensive, and even some. So they basically, what they did here was they took all these recent satellite images and they put them in front of military analysts to look them over and talk about them. And that's what they discovered was all of these mazes of trenches that are everywhere, the anti-tank ditches, the dragon's teeth, etc. But they even go so far, though, as to even suggest that, and of course, you got to take it with a grain of salt, it's coming from the West, but that these aren't going to even stop the offensive. It may slow it down, but it won't stop it, they say. So, I don't know, we'll have to see what really comes of this offensive when it happens. I know they're still waiting on the U.S. tanks. I think they're supposed to be finishing up training any day now or any week now, and those should be deployed. But to what extent that changes or moves up this offensive time, or if we're in the offensive, we've heard all sorts of different positions on this. Everyone from saying it was going to be in April to then it was May. Now today's May 23rd, so the month's getting close to ending. Before much longer, are we in the offensive or not? Is the big question I keep asking. But they're definitely preparing. So when they look at the satellite images, they can see a significant preparation from Russia's side. So if they're doing that, they're expecting something, and maybe rightfully so. It makes sense that you would prepare for what you think is coming at you. That's the whole. One of the main points of the military is to be prepared for what may be coming your way and not to be caught off guard. So that's, I guess kudos to them for doing it, but that also turns around and says, does that give validity to the fact that they think there's an offensive or they believe that there is this offensive that's coming? And it's significant enough to warrant this amount? Or, as we've said, is this preparation for something bigger? Is this really preparation for something that's not UKR, that is the oncoming, potential conflict between the West, aka NATO, and Russia? And are they really preparing for that? And I think that may be the big question and the obvious potential answer.
Well, again, this is it's just more signs of the times that we're in. And then, Dex, this is more up your alley. The cyber gulag, how Russia tracks, censors, and controls its citizens.
This is a fascinating story about this one particular journalist who has said and claims that that as much as we think about China and their ability to track and trace and arrest people or deny them access because of their social credit, this person is saying, hey, even in Russia, they were targeted because they were taking public transportation, and they were picked up numerous times. I think she said 5 different times, because of what she was assuming is facial recognition in the systems that are being deployed. So she now has to avoid that type of transportation. She has to avoid, being in areas where she could be picked up, because that, she's a target, obviously, because I guess what she reports on from a journalistic point of view. Now, keep in mind, if she's also reporting against things that Russia likes, then the story is one of those that would be sort of skewed in that direction. So again, take it with a grain of salt, which we always like to say when we pick these types of stories up from both sides of this conflict. But in this case, it's also interesting to see that we're looking at a country that, and what they're suggesting is they're doing very much what we see in China and what we fear would be happening in the rest of the world. And it's definitely something we don't want to see happen. I don't. I think it's horrible. This whole notion of facial recognition and connecting everything, and you being tracked and traced everywhere you go, and your whole identity is out there. It's kind of a scary thought. So, do you think this is actually happening, or do you think this is just bunk from a reporter who's anti Vlad there?
Yeah, as far as whatever is happening right now, I think that we'll know more as time goes on. And then Dorothy Tucker says, look up, they released Australia tariffs instead. I actually did that, and I get what you're saying. So speaking about earlier, it says the Australian government has reached a deal with China that may lead to the removal of tariffs on Australian barley that were introduced at the height of diplomatic tensions in 2020. Well, the axing of the tariffs is not guaranteed. The pathway to resolve one of it says. And then it says, China imposed punitive tariffs on more than 80% of Australian barley, arguing that the move was needed to level the playing field because the sector gained subsidies and Australian barley was being dumped cheaply. Australia always rejected those claims, and previous Morrison government initiated the WTO challenge. The answer on Tuesday appeared to be aimed at giving China an off-ramp. Who is acting prime minister? Okay, it was the other one that said it. Farrell said, sign of goodwill. It showed it in the other one. It showed it in the preview, so I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I'll find it and put it by the end. I'll put the correct article at the end so Dex can put it on the website. Let's see here. And then UKR situation report, attack inside Russia continues with strikes on government buildings. And this is, of course, it's hard to say what is real and what's not, because now they're arresting people that are filming things in UKR. They're arresting people that are, telling what's happening in Russia. It says, as a cross-border attack into Russia's Belgorod Oblast continues into the night, video is emerging of what a pro-Russian Telegram channel claims to be an attack on the Russian Federal Security Service Office, the FSB, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs buildings there. It says, according to our sources in Belgorod, the targets of the attack were the departments of Ministry of Internal Affairs and the FSB. The Kremlin-affiliated Rybar Telegram reported Monday. The impact of the strikes is unknown. Now, remember, we covered yesterday or the day before where one of their high-ranking officials said that we are going to stamp out in Belgorod the UKR presence and the saboteurs. So it did kind of confirm that there were things going on inside of Russia. Now they're saying that it was actually targeting that separately, that the FSB and this Belgorod Oblast, it was being attacked. Dex, so this is kind of confirming some things that were going on, right?
Certainly, to some extent, it does. But, there's also no independent verification of the claims. So the claims are coming from, one side or the other. But it seems like we're getting enough of this around this whole notion that they did go to cross the border. They did, go into Belgorod. There's numerous reports now on this. So we kind of, the actual details is what we're not clear on. How long it's going to last? Are they making any progress, or is this just simple, incursion, do some damage and get out kind of thing? So it would be interesting to see if UKR actually pulls a line across the border and holds it. That would be huge, and I think that would be a game changer to the people of Russia, and especially the military leadership there, as well as the Kremlin itself. So I don't know if that's going to actually happen, though.
And just to show you where the this part over here is UKR, and then over here is the Belgorod Oblast. So it makes some sense considering what was covered earlier this week. And I think it was only yesterday or the day before. So we'll see, and we'll follow it. We'll make sure to update. By the way, things have changed. If you do want to go and get yourself some food, as far as freeze-dried food, now the $200 off discount is now back. They were doing a kind of package of free goodies when you get a 3-month supply of the freeze-dried food from My Patriot Supply. Now they are doing the straight-up $200 discount. A lot of people, it depends on who it is. Some people preferred the $200 off. Some people preferred the self-powered heater and the 4-in-1 flashlight and stuff. Most people right now just wanted to go with a whole lot cheaper. So this is really good for those of you that emailed me and said, like, hey, when is there going to be a different kind of discount? This is back. So it is the largest discount they've ever done. That puts a 3-month supply at $597. Now that's, again, broken into 3 months of food for a person. So you can break that up into a month for 3 people, a month and a half or 45 days for 2 people, or so on from there. So this is really great because this is food that will last 25 years, and freeze-dried food in general, because of the technology behind it, it's extremely expensive and it's been going up in price. This has tripled in just the last 3 years, and now it's actually almost quadrupled, and it's been closer to another year since that came out. So if you get this, and in 3 years from now it's 3 times more expensive, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you won't have to pay 4 times as much. So this is a better bought yesterday kind of thing than tomorrow. Now, 25 years is a long time. That's 2052. The year 2052, well, we're supposed to be 10 years on Mars by then, and this food will still be good. So, of course, I know everybody's rolling their eyes, but that's how long this will last. It has all of your bases covered as far as food, and it's one of the most affordable ways to get this much food all in one. You can do smaller packages. You can do a 3-day kit of 72 hours for a go bag. You can do all sorts of things. You just add water, heat it up, cook it in water, and boom, you've got yourself a meal. They have a variety of things packed in that, but I would highly also recommend looking at one of their freeze-dried meat packages too. That complements this very well and will keep you really, really good for a long time. This as well, you can basically get 9 months to almost a whole year worth of food for the same price as some of their competitors. So that's a huge deal. Make sure to go check it out. You will get a $200 off discount at marfooglenews.com/prep. You don't need to do any code. That is the code. So as long as you use that link, you'll get it, and you'll help support our channel. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have you. So thank you, everybody that does so. And thank you for even those who do little tiny purchases through these links. Like, you can get a single freeze-dried meal. You do it through this link, it will give us credit, and we appreciate it. We really do. Thank you so much for all of your support. And then how AI is learning to read the human mind. This is something we have speculated and talked about many times over the years. And it says for years, scientists have been trying to harness the powers of the human brain, but the concept of mind reading has remained firmly in the realms of science fiction fantasy. But now a research team in Singapore, using artificial intelligence and a scanning machine, are developing a basic mind reading technique that decodes brain scans to produce images that a person is mentally picturing. This is so absolutely nuts. A scanning machine that would be able to scan what you are picturing in your brain. Really think about that. It says it could not only transform the communication skills of people with disabilities, allowing them to convey a message with their mind, but also raises urgent ethical and legal questions about how the technology could evolve and potentially be misused for corporate interests. We are so not evolved when you think about what they are even talking about is going to be possible in the next few years. And in just the last 10 years, where technology has gone, I can't even imagine where it is about to go. Like the whole talk with the AI and everything else that's going on. Our world is about to change before you leave this earth. Even if you have 10 years left on this earth, if you're 90 and you're hitting 100, I promise you, you're going to see this world change. This is huge. This is absolutely freaky. This is like, when people watched in the 80s of what the future would be and they laughed. Nobody's laughing right now. This is changing and it is going to happen. They're already taking it where somebody looks at a card and then they register the response. So they'll look at the word, say it's the word ketchup or something, and then they show that them out of 100 cards, and they show that them and they do 100 different cards. And then they put that back in front of them, and then they're able to track all 100 brain responses to that. And then every time ketchup pops up, they see that same signal. Same thing with a picture. They see a car. They keep seeing a picture of a car. Well, a certain, scan shows up and a certain wavelength pops up. Then they know that that's what car means. So if somebody thinks about car, or a car is driving on highway, it can literally paint that picture out now. There's stuff like this that's already in existence, and we've talked about the different moves forward that this is happening. I can only imagine what the government's going to do with this. And fear it as well. By the way, thank you, and thank you. Marfia over on DLive. Kiki Gray, thank you for gifting out subs to Heartbroken Survivor. Thank you, J-Girl, that's me. Good to see everybody. Hey, nice to see you. Gamer Faro, nice to see you. Oh, wow, that's Gamer Faro. You've been on DLive for a long time. I remember your streams. Queen BTP, Vault Music, Kiki Gray, and Yobi, thank you. WizTech G, what is happening? And of course, again, thank you, Renegade PD and Yobi. Let's see here. Yeah, Dex. I mean, this is crazy. We're getting into mind reading territory at this point.
Well, it's a fascinating space when you think about the whole notion of trying to understand the signal of what the mind is either seeing or thinking. That's extremely complex, and you could simplify it, which is what researchers did. Like, let me show you a star, let me show you a circle, let me show you a square, and then try to see if you can pick out what those signals look like in the brain. But the human processing of that, or even just the computer processing of that without something like artificial intelligence, made it almost impossible to achieve. But now when you layer in this whole notion of AI, trying to solve and weed through the data and analysis that's coming in from those brain waves to actually, decode what is there. Now it's within the realm of possibility. And this is really opening up not just what the tech can do, like they, give examples of helping, disabled people, but really, what does this mean to us as society? And what do we need to think about from a protection point of view? How do we protect our thoughts? How do we protect our brains? What safeguards are they putting in? We're talking a lot about safeguards right now around AI, but it sounds like we need to start talking about safeguards around our brainwaves and what's happening there. What rights do we have to the thoughts and the information that's in our own brains? And when technology can come around very easily and pick that apart, that's a scary time for our society.
It is indeed. You'll have to start getting EMP shields for your brain, or what do you call it? You'll have
tinfoil hat,
Faraday hats. I bet you that's coming. Oh, somebody just snagged the idea and patented it. Dang it. And then mysterious form of mad cow disease emerges in the U.S. We make sure to track all of the smaller kind of outbreaks and things like this. This is kind of a creepy one. It says U.S. officials have detected an atypical case of mad cow disease in a beef cow at a slaughter plant in the state of South Carolina, they announced on Friday. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said in a statement that the animal never entered slaughter channels and at no time presented a risk to the food supply or to the human health in the United States. Agency said that the United States has a negligible risk status for bovine spongiform encephalopathy, as the neurologic disease is officially called, and we do not accept any trade impacts as a result of this finding. BSE is linked to the fatal human condition of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease if contaminated meat is eaten. An atypical variant sporadically occurs in older cattle, while the classic form is spread when farmers feed their herds with the meat and bone meal of infected animals. The classic form poses more danger to humans. This is the 7th time BSE has been detected in the United States over the past 20 years, and all but one of them have been atypical, officials said. Past BSE cases in the United States, Canada, Israel, Europe, and Japan have caused disruption to the global food trade worth billions of dollars. So that's all we need right now, right on top of everything else going on. Hopefully that does not happen.
Yeah, this is either going to be a nothing burger or it's going to be a something burger, and pun intended on the cow there.
Mad cow burger.
Yeah, this will just go away and we won't even talk about it again, or we're going to be like, yeah, you remember that back on May 23rd when we were talking about that, first case, and now all of a sudden it's everywhere.
So pay attention. This could be something big, or it could be a literal, fade away into nothingness. But you heard it here first. Or mainstream media today if you read the newspaper. Thank you. All right. You guys, make sure to go over to the website, check out all of the marfooglenews.com/friends and mods. All of our mods are there, including Bones. Bones has his TikTok and Twitter over there if you want to go check out his art and his stuff and his funny videos. Of course, Chance has his books on Amazon. You guys have missing out if you haven't gotten one of his books yet. CJ Blaze has the Brighteon and YT backup over there, so make sure to go check it out. And then Gem, of course, has a great link tree. She's an artist, wonderful artist. Jammer1, great Twitter and DLive. Lisa R. Hall is just very awesome and longest running mod, and she has a great channel. She has been working hard, and I'm praying for her to have awesome days every day. She is a beautiful person inside and out, and of course she, I've never known somebody nicer than Lisa R. Hall. She thinks of everybody else first, and she always thinks of herself last. And sometimes that can be her weakness, but it is always come to the top as her strength. And then Rip Curl Readiness, smartest guy out there, very intelligent. Make sure to go check him out. And then RJL Harris, Ilea, our most dedicated mod right now. Thank you so much. You've been at every single show. Thank you. I appreciate you. And no worries about your phone. Trinity or Red Pill, Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here. Just put out some awesome videos. So make sure to go check it out. And Wages World, one of our most awesome friends here. Wages, a.k.a. Mark, is such a cool dude. And he, of course, has awesome content on his channel. He's closing in on 60,000 subscribers. So make sure to go help him do so. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only.
Lots happening. So head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It will take you right here. You can see all the sources, all the articles, links to everything we've just covered. Then you're going to find this yellow bar. It says overflow. This is the rest of the story where everything else falls, the stuff we either don't cover or additional supportive content to the things we have talked about. What's happening right now, there's with the debt ceiling, the deal's not done. They're nowhere near getting a deal done, it seems like. There's also an interesting position from a guy named Paul Krugman. If you want to read that, he talks about why we don't even have to pay off our debt. Like, it's kind of an amazing thought. Maybe we all should just do that, not pay our debt. But that probably would not be the right way to go. But if you want to know what's happening there, yes, of course, funds are going to run out eventually, and then that's all covered. So a lot of coverage there. If you're curious about it, we did talk about it in last night's show. We've got some additional stuff there. We're going to keep an eye on it. That date is looming. It's June 1st, according to Yellen. We'll see how that plays out. There are definitely updates in the political spectrum. Tonight probably has already happened at this point. DeSantis was supposed to launch for 2024. We do have updates on T-Man and other stuff that's happening in the political spectrum. It's all there. Interesting update about people who really are diehards to paper money. And I think a lot of those folks are probably here in our chat, because I know I am. I don't want to get rid of my paper money. If you're curious about that, look, hey, Apple inked a huge deal to actually buy chips from Broadcom, making those chips in America. That's big. It's not going to be enough, but it's a start and it's headed in the right direction. So seeing companies do this and try to get us off of the position that we're in right now with Taiwan Semiconductor and others, the more we can diversify where our chips come from, the safer we are. We do have a lot of updates in the UKR space. That's all there, from everything from Putin to what's going on with the need of more missiles that they're talking about, including an opposition group posting a video of what appears to be a specific flag over Moscow. That's there. They're even saying Bitcoin has bottomed out and it's now on a bull run. I'm not saying that. They're saying that. So don't take that as financial advice, but that is there. There's some Elon updates as well. They're talking about potentially moving out of San Francisco. That and a whole lot more. Everything. It's right there on the website. Marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or scroll down or open up that description right down below the video and just click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. You don't even have to leave the app.
And who knows, Twitter's headquarters may move to Florida, considering how buddy he's been with DeSantis. Also, they decided to put the trial of T-Man right a couple months before the 2024 events, where everybody drops their ballots in. What's crazy to me, though, is everybody's fallen for this back and forth. People fell for the narrative about both, everybody. Personally, I think all these guys are, they're all in for somebody. It's kind of, many people said during 2016 and 2020, pick the lesser of evils. I do actually feel there's a lesser of an evil, and I don't believe the act over the last few years with as many newspapers start out, a Florida man, right? I think there's a lot of money in full swing right now. So I think we more need to focus on what we can do, what information we can pass along while we are still able to, and we all need to speak with our money. I love this whole paper money diehards refuse to fold. Many businesses are basically starting this all money, only money movement. I think it's cool. All right, thank you guys, and Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you, mods. Dropping them in the chat for the mods. Again, they have done an awesome job keeping it peaceful down in the chat. And again, thank you, Nana of Montana. Thank you for the massive support tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you, and thank you. Dorothy Tucker, thank you, and thank you. Stephen McMahon, thank you. Tennessee Mountain Girl, Danish Girl, thank you, and thank you. And Liz Potter. Celtic Warrior, Nana of Montana, and of course, Danish Girl and Lisa Douglas. Thank you so much for your support tonight. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Where I say thank you to the people that matter most. Douglas. Lisa 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 Douglas. Here's what we're going